Have you ever walked into a room and felt invisible, like your presence meant nothing? That silent sting, that heavy void where recognition should be, is not just painful, it's a warning. In a world built on dominance and perception, being overlooked is not neutral, it's dangerous. Because the one who controls the room without needing to speak is the one people follow. And if you're not commanding presence, you're surrendering it, whether you realize it or not. But here's the truth they never teach you. You don't need to be the loudest, the richest, or the most attractive. You need to radiate something stronger, an aura so firm, so anchored, that it makes people pause, question, and adjust themselves in your presence. Your aura is your invisible force. It's the unspoken signal that tells people how to treat you, how to value you, and whether or not they should fear disappointing you. Before you speak, before you move, your energy speaks for you. And if that energy is weak, desperate, insecure, they will sense it. They will test you, ignore you, use you, not because they're evil, but because human nature is built to respond to strength. And that's the difference between a life of chasing validation and a life of quietly commanding it. You don't need to beg for respect. You don't need to explain your worth. You need to become undeniable. That begins internally, with your posture, your eye contact. Bustling our eye contact. The way you enter a room without shrinking, the way you speak without rushing. People feel your self-respect long before they process your words. And when your energy says, I am here, I am unshaken, the world mirrors it back. Machiavellian power is not about theatrics, it's about precision, calm. Stillness. You don't flinch when challenged. You don't seek applause. You walk as if you are the standard. That's what separates the forgettable from the unforgettable. If you've ever been ignored, disrespected, talked over, it ends now. Not by confronting others, but by transforming yourself. When your presence is built on certainty and restraint, people begin to align around you. They don't know why they feel the need to impress you. They just do. And that's the reward of real presence. You stop chasing approval and start attracting obedience. You stop explaining yourself and start influencing the room without effort. This is not about arrogance. It's about command. Silent, psychological command. And once you understand how to create this aura, you'll never move through the world the same way again. Stay with this until the end, because what's coming next will show you exactly how to build that aura step by step, not with gimmicks, not with empty hype, but with cold, powerful truths that transform how others respond to you for the rest of your life. If you've ever wanted to become someone they can't ignore, it starts now. Powerful presence is not loud, it's not desperate for attention, it's felt in the stillness, in the silence, in the way you hold yourself when everyone else is trying too hard. People are not drawn to chaos, they're drawn to control, and the most powerful form of control is psychological. When you learn to remain unreadable, unbothered, unmoved, you create a tension in others they can't quite explain. That tension is influence. It makes people lean in. It forces them to guess what you're thinking, where you stand, what you'll do next. And in that guessing, in that uncertainty, you gain power. Because those who can't be easily read can't be easily controlled. You don't owe the world your emotions. You don't owe anyone access to your inner world. The more you explain, the more you dilute your authority. The more you share, the more predictable you become. And predictability is weakness in a world where perception is everything. Let people wonder. Let them speculate. Let them be confused. When you say little and observe much, you begin to control the emotional temperature of any interaction. While others rush to be understood, you study. While others overreact, you remain composed. That contrast speaks volumes. It makes people feel smaller in your presence, not because you diminish them, but because you don't need them to validate your existence. The human mind fears what it can't label. It fears calm when it expects reaction. It fears the person who listens more than they speak. Yeah. And that fear translates to respect even if it's not conscious. The mystery you create becomes your shield. It protects you from being played, from being underestimated, from being placed in a box you never chose. Never let people feel like they fully have you. Keep a part of yourself out of reach. That distance, that uncertainty is where your power lives. Not in volume, not in flash, but in silence and control. Most people are slaves to their reactions. One insult and they explode. One setback and they collapse. But you must become emotionally sovereign. You feel everything, but you show nothing unless it serves a purpose. Your energy is measured, calculated, deliberate. You do not flinch. You do not explain. You do not perform. You respond only when it strengthens your position. That's when your aura begins to change. That's when people stop testing you and start adjusting to you. Because they realize subconsciously you are not like them. You are something rarer, colder, sharper, stronger. Master this and you begin to create space wherever you go. Space where people lower their voice, straighten their back, watch their words. Not because you intimidate them, but because your presence demands it, and they can't help but obey. Stay emotionally unreadable and you become psychologically untouchable. That is the foundation of dominance. And once you own that foundation, no one, not even the loudest in the room, can take the power from you. The moment you become emotionally detached, you become dangerous, not cold. Not heartless, just unshakably composed. Because power dies where desperation begins. You cannot lead, influence, or dominate anything if your emotions are constantly being pulled by external hands. The one who can't be triggered becomes the one who can't be controlled. And that's where your transformation starts, not in how others treat you, but in how little they can move you from your center. Emotional distance is not weakness. It's the highest form of self-control. When you stop reacting, you start ruling. Most people are addicted to emotional noise. They seek validation. They chase closure. They explain, overthink, and overfeel. But you must rise above that chaos. You must become the person who doesn't flinch when ignored, doesn't chase when rejected, doesn't fold when tested. You must train yourself to find strength in detachment. When others try to provoke you, disappoint you, or manipulate your response, you give them nothing. Just silence. Just the look of a person who is too grounded to care. That silence becomes power. It shows you are in full control of yourself, and by extension, in control of them. Detachment is clarity. It allows you to see people for what they are, not what you want them to be. When you're emotionally attached, your judgment is compromised. You tolerate what you should walk away from. You overvalue what gives you nothing. But once you detach, the fog lifts. You no longer beg to be understood. You no longer fear being alone. You stop handing your power to people who haven't earned it. That shift changes your aura. You stop radiating need and you start radiating choice. You become the one who chooses, not the one who waits to be chosen. The strongest presence is built on selective energy. You don't argue with fools. You don't explain yourself to critics. You don't react to subtle disrespect. Your silence speaks for you. And it speaks volumes. It says, I do not chase. I do not beg. I do not break. That energy unsettles the insecure. It challenges the dominant. And it attracts the few who recognize real strength. You will lose people when you embrace this mindset, but only the ones who are feeding on your weakness. What remains are those who respect your power. Build your aura with discipline. Say less. React less. Need less. The less you crave from others, the more they feel the weight of your absence. That's how you create gravity, by refusing to orbit anyone. You don't move for them, they move for you. Because your presence becomes rare, and rare things are never ignored. Detachment isn't loneliness, it's elevation. You no longer swim in shallow waters, you walk above them. And from that height, the world begins to bend, not because you forced it, but because you became too solid to be moved. That is how emotional distance becomes dominance. Power is not found in how much you give, it's found in how little of yourself you allow others to access. People crave what's scarce. They chase what's hard to reach. The more available you are, the more they take you for granted. Familiarity breeds comfort, but too much comfort destroys respect. You must become deliberate with your presence, strategic with your time. When you are always there, always responding, always explaining, you become predictable. And predictability is the death of influence. To bend others to your will, you must first make your attention feel like a privilege, not a guarantee. Scarcity forces people to reevaluate your worth. When you pull back, they suddenly feel the weight of your absence. And in that absence, they begin to realize what they overlooked. You don't need to cut people off to create power. You simply need to stop making yourself cheap. Your time, your words, your energy, they are your currency. Spend them wisely. Give only when it serves your purpose. When others start asking where you are, why you're distant, what changed, that's when you know your aura is beginning to shift. Because now they're chasing, now they're adjusting, and now you control the frame. To become rare, you must first become self-sufficient. You cannot need what you seek to control. Your validation must come from within. Your focus must be rooted in your mission, not in external approval. Most people scatter themselves across too many connections, too many distractions, too many shallow interactions. That diffusion weakens their presence, it dilutes their power. But when you retract, when you conserve your energy and move only with intention, something changes. Your presence starts to carry weight. Every word matters. Every move is noticed. Every silence is felt. Scarcity is not isolation. It is refinement. It is the act of cutting away the unnecessary so that only what strengthens you remains. You become harder to access, not out of pride, but out of purpose. You do not hide, you ascend, and the higher you rise, the fewer people can reach you. That distance does not make you cold. It makes you valuable. Because value is created through contrast. When people can no longer predict you, no longer consume you at will, they begin to treat your presence with reverence. Let others overextend themselves. Let them be everywhere with everyone all the time. You, on the other hand, move in silence. You protect your energy like a fortress, and that fortress becomes sacred. It tells the world that your attention is earned, not given. That your presence must be respected, not assumed. All right. The moment you stop offering yourself freely is the moment people start feeling your worth without you having to say a single word. That is how scarcity becomes a weapon. Not by doing more, but by doing less with unmatched purpose. Less noise, less access, more gravity, more control. And that control reshapes how the world moves around you. If your presence commands attention, your silence should command fear. The most powerful individuals aren't those who speak the most. They are the ones whose silence makes others question themselves. Because when people don't know what you're thinking, they start projecting. They fill in the gaps with assumptions, fears, and insecurities. That's where your psychological leverage lives. In the unknown, in the discomfort they feel trying to understand you. Most are too quick to speak, too eager to explain, too desperate to be understood. But the one who restrains their words and holds their ground bends the dynamic in their favor without ever raising their voice. Self-restraint is a form of power most will never master, because it takes strength to watch someone try to provoke you and offer them nothing. Nothing. It takes inner discipline to sit in silence when you could easily speak and defend yourself. But defense is for the insecure. When you truly understand your value, you don't argue, you observe. You don't explain, you refine. You let others show their cards while you hold yours close. You let them exhaust their energy while you conserve yours. And in that contrast, they begin to feel smaller. Not because you made them small, but because you refuse to shrink yourself to match their chaos. Most people think presence is about charisma, but true presence is built through boundaries. It's how quickly you walk away from disrespect, how calmly you disengage from drama, how ruthlessly you protect your peace. Every time you let someone drain your energy, you surrender a piece of your power. But when you decide your attention is not free, when you treat your focus like gold, you begin to project an aura that others can't ignore. Because it's no longer about what you do, it's about what you withhold. And what you withhold creates tension. That tension is influence. You must become unfazed by opinions, unmoved by gossip, unbothered by rejection. Most will try to shake you just to see if they can. The moment they succeed, you've already lost control. But if you remain still, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, they start to realize something they didn't expect. You're not reacting because you don't need their validation. And nothing confuses the insecure more than someone who does not fear being misunderstood. That confusion is power. It forces them to respect you, even if they don't like you. The less you respond, the more authority you gain. You stop being one of them. You become something else entirely. A standard, a force, an enigma. That's what makes you unforgettable. Not your noise, but your silence. Not your presence, but your absence when it's felt the most. That is how the aura begins to solidify through self-restraint, emotional control, and strategic silence. And the more you master this, the more the world bends, not because you demanded it, but because you became too composed to be challenged. That's when power is no longer something you chase. It's something you radiate. When people feel your presence without needing your attention, you've already shifted the balance of power. The moment they realize you're not playing the same emotional game, they start to recalibrate. They speak more carefully. They try harder to impress. They adjust not because you asked, but because your energy demands it. That's what happens when your aura evolves from reaction to command. You stop seeking respect and start radiating something stronger: dominance without aggression, authority without noise. This is the power of internal certainty. When you know exactly who you are, the world has no choice but to recognize it. You must break the habit of emotional leakage. Stop explaining your silence. Stop softening your strength to make others comfortable. Power is not polite. It is unapologetically self-contained. Quote, "You are not here to be understood. You are here to be respected. And if that respect must come from a distance, so be it." Every time you diminish yourself to fit someone else's comfort zone, you signal that their opinion has weight over your truth. But when you hold your posture, your boundaries, your silence, you send a different message. One that says, "I know who I am. I don't need to prove it." The most dangerous energy is quiet certainty. It's the calm that makes others panic. It's the refusal to react that forces them to confront themselves. Your stillness becomes their mirror, and most cannot handle what they see because they expect to control you with guilt, with praise, with pressure. But when none of it works, when you remain centered and detached, their strategies fall apart. And in that collapse, they start to feel your power, not as something you impose, but as something that simply exists, something unshakable, something earned. You do not need to threaten. But you do not need to beg. You don't even need to correct their perception. Let them underestimate you. Let them doubt your intentions. Let them talk. Their confusion is your camouflage. Their noise is your advantage. Because while they waste energy trying to decipher you, you stay focused. You move silently, strategically, with purpose. And when the time comes to make a move, they will be too distracted to stop you. That's what real influence looks like. Unseen until it's too late to resist. If you want an aura that bends people to your will, you must become immune to their emotional currency. Praise won't distract you. Criticism won't move you. Approval won't addict you. You operate from internal alignment, not external reaction. That is rare. That is magnetic. Because in a world of emotional chaos, the calm one becomes the axis. Everything spins around them. Everything reacts to them. Not because they forced it, but because they became the one who doesn't flinch, the one who doesn't chase. The one who stands so still, so sure that the world has no option but to rotate in their orbit. That's not arrogance. That's power fully realized. You cannot influence the external world until you've conquered the internal one. The battle is not out there, it's inside. Inside your habits, your impulses, your fears, power begins where emotional mastery begins. Until you have full control over your state, you will always be a servant to someone else's energy. Every reaction you give is a signal. It tells people where to push, how to pull, and when to strike. But when you discipline your mind, regulate your emotions, and remain unshaken in chaos, you become unreadable, and the unreadable are unplayable. You turn into the variable they can't predict, the force they can't bend. Most are slaves to their triggers. One word can set them off. One look can break their composure. One disappointment can collapse their confidence. You don't fold, you pause. You assess. You strike only when necessary, and always with precision. That's what makes you different. That's what builds your presence. You become known not for what you say, but for what you don't allow. You must become immune to the chaos of others. Do not absorb their energy. Do not match their tone. Do not let their storms shake your foundation. People will test your calm. They'll poke at your limits, hoping to trigger the old version of you. But that version must no longer exist. The more they push, the deeper you sink into stillness. Not out of weakness, but out of total control. That stillness becomes your weapon. It exposes them. It magnifies their desperation. And while they unravel trying to provoke you, you rise untouched, unmoved, unshaken. Control is not about dominance through fear. It's about presence through restraint. It's walking into a room and needing no introduction. It's being quiet yet commanding. It's carrying yourself with such stability that people instinctively defer to your energy. Because they feel something different, something rare, something grounded. This isn't about pretending to be powerful. It's about becoming so internally fortified that you can't be shaken by anyone's words, actions, or opinions. That internal fortitude is what builds your aura. That's what others feel when they're around you, even if they can't explain it. You are not here to be loud. You are here to be undeniable. Let your discipline speak for you. Let your calm cut deeper than words. Let your refusal to react become the reason they adjust their approach. Most try to influence others through pressure, noise, and force. You will do it through stillness, mystery, and presence. And in that silence, they'll begin to shift. Not because you asked, but because your energy gave them no choice. That's how real influence is born, from the inside out, from a mind that cannot be penetrated and a presence that cannot be ignored. When you stop chasing validation, you start pulling power. The world teaches you to seek approval, to mold yourself into what others want so you're accepted. But every time you do, you give away leverage. You shrink your presence to fit their comfort. You trade your authenticity for acceptance. That is weakness disguised as connection. Real power doesn't ask to be liked. It stands firm, knowing that not everyone can handle raw truth. And those who can't were never meant to sit at your table. You are not here to win popularity. You are here to dominate your space with unapologetic self-respect. To build a powerful aura, you must detach from the need to be understood. You don't owe explanations. You don't owe access. You don't owe access. You don't owe your energy to anyone who hasn't earned it. The moment you start filtering your truth to avoid offending weak minds, you poison your own strength. Because you become a version of yourself that's edited, polished, and diluted. That version pleases people, but it never commands them. It never moves them. It never bends reality. Only the unfiltered, grounded, and centered version of you has that impact. The one who doesn't flinch. The one who doesn't care if they get it. The one who keeps moving forward regardless. You must become emotionally self-sufficient. Stop waiting for others to see your worth. Stop hoping they'll give you the green light. Most will never acknowledge your strength until it benefits them. That's why your power has to be internal, rooted in silence, built in solitude, fueled by a mission so real that their applause becomes irrelevant. When you stop seeking confirmation, you become the confirmation. When you stop needing permission, you become the authority. That shift in mindset is what turns average people into unstoppable forces. Presence is not something you perform. It's something you project. It comes from alignment, when your thoughts, values, and actions are all synchronized. When your life is a reflection of your principles, you don't have to speak loudly. People feel the difference. You don't have to justify who you are. People adjust without you saying a word. That's not charisma. That's not charisma. That's congruence. And congruence is rare. It intimidates the unaligned. It silences the fake. It commands the room not through effort, but through essence. You are not meant to blend in. You are meant to set the tone, to walk with such certainty that others question their own direction, to hold such high standards that mediocrity exposes itself around you. Your power is in your refusal to be average, to be available to everyone, to be emotionally manipulated. Every time you act in alignment with your highest self, your aura grows. It thickens. It sharpens. It begins to shape the environment, not adapt to it. That's when the shift happens. When people don't just respect you, they revolve around you. Not because you demanded it, but because you became the gravity. The strongest aura is forged in isolation. When you step back from the noise, from the distractions, from the endless need to be seen, you start to see yourself clearly. You begin to operate from a deeper place, not one shaped by trends or applause, but by unshakable vision. Power doesn't come from being everywhere. It comes from being intentional with where you are, with who has access to you, and with what you allow to enter your mind. When your attention becomes expensive, your presence becomes priceless. You're no longer just a person. They feel something when you're near. They watch their words. They adjust their energy. Because you've become a force, not a follower. Silence becomes your strategy. Detachment becomes your armor. You stop reacting to every provocation. You stop justifying every decision. You move like someone who has nothing to prove. And that energy, that stillness becomes louder than anything you could ever say. People won't always know why they respect you, but they'll feel it. It's not arrogance, it's clarity. Oh, you're not above them. You're just no longer among them emotionally. You've transcended the games, the validation loops, the attention wars. You're building something they can't see yet, and that makes them nervous. That mystery, that restraint is magnetic. You don't attract power by begging for it. You attract it by embodying it. Every day you say no to distractions, your power increases. Every time you withhold your response and stay focused, your influence grows. People follow energy they can't control. They're drawn to those who operate on their own terms. That's what you're becoming. The one who doesn't chase, the one who doesn't explain, the one who simply is. And when you reach that level of control, your aura becomes a mirror. It reflects people's weaknesses back at them. They'll admire you, hate you, copy you, but they'll never forget you. Because you represent what they lack: discipline, clarity, power. If you want to bend others to your will, you must first bend your will inward. Master yourself, and the world starts to respond. Not immediately, but inevitably. Stay focused long enough, silent long enough, disciplined long enough, and the shift will happen. People will begin to orbit around your gravity. Not because you asked, but because your energy gave them no other option. And the best part? You won't need to announce your rise. You won't need to convince anyone. Your actions, your energy, your transformation will speak louder than anything else. This is your leverage, your ability to remain calm under pressure, focused under chaos, and disciplined under temptation. Build that muscle every day. Sharpen it in silence. Fortify it in solitude. And when the world looks your way wondering how you became untouchable, you'll smile, not out of pride, but because you know. You earned your power. You cultivated your aura. And now you carry something no one can take, a presence so commanding it bends reality around your will.